Right. I guess we could start that again. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here today at our Tuesday PhD support group meeting. I'm Lenny Liebenberg, and I'll be joined today by the UKZN Student Support Services team. The SSS team have really been just so very helpful over the past couple of sessions and will still be over the next couple of sessions. Thank you for being part of these meetings. The team has really been providing so much valuable information and support for the participants of this meeting, whether we are PhD students, postdocs, staff, or other postgrads. We're all here and we're all learning. And I'd really very much like to say thank you very much to the UKZN Student Support Services team for making this happen so often. Thank you. Today, we will be joined by them discussing a very important topic, relationship and issues of gender-based violence. So welcome again to the SSS team. I suppose I'll be handing over to Sue.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Lenine, and welcome everybody for joining in. I am just quickly mindful about my bandwidth. I am going to be switching off my video just to help a little bit with my screen share. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, thank you very much.
Awesome. So at any time, should you require any further assistance, maybe during this presentation, you feel like there is a light bulb moment and you need to reach out to a student counselor, you may call us on the toll-free line on 080-080-0017 or email us on the email address provided chs.sss@ukzn.ac.za to secure an appointment. So I am going to be talking a little bit about what does a relationship mean, just to put it into a little bit of a context, and then we're going to be handing over to Dr. Chapter, who's going to speak a little bit more from the perspective of a academic leader research, and my colleagues will introduce him. So what does the word relationship mean? I've given you a chance just to think a little bit about it. But just quickly, a relationship speaks to the way in which two or more people or things are connected or the state of being connected. It could be a connection by affiliation or interest or association or contract. And there are all these varying levels of connectedness, openness and sharing, as well as level of commitment. And we all can agree we find ourselves in relationships in a very arrayed list of relationships. It can be work, collegial, intimate, familial, friendships, and it is so important to have good relationships. We may even feel a little more complete when we have these connections, and even happier when they go well. So I do hope you're sitting next to a piece of paper and a pen nearby. If not, go grab one quickly. And just allow yourself to draw just a few circles on a page. During the presentation, I'm going to be referring back to these circles and the things that we're writing into these circles. So allow yourself just to draw a few circles on a page. Little ones, medium ones, big ones, as big as you want, as small as you want. And once you have done so, let's assign our relationships we hold to each circle. So assign the importance of a relationship to the size of the circle. So for example, a very important relationship, a big circle, jot it in there. Relationship that's not as important, but a relationship worth noting and acknowledging, perhaps a slightly smaller one. An unimportant relationship, but is around, it's there, like the relationship we have with our mother-in-law or the bank. Okay, jokes aside, let's just acknowledge a few of these relationships. Okay. And as you allow yourself to complete your circles, filling in the circles with words that acknowledge the relationships you find yourself in, you're going to start realizing and becoming aware that there are many kinds of relationships out there that we find ourselves in. We might not be able to address them all today, but we may refer to them as we speak. So some of these might be roles or relationships you find yourself in as a student, a friend, a sister, a brother, a daughter, son, a partner, a worker, an employee, perhaps a tutor, a child, a cousin, a friend, a carer, a researcher, a supervisor, or something other. So just allow yourself to acknowledge some of those roles in the life that you play in and the relationships that you find yourself in. Okay. And if you feel brave enough, you are most welcome to pop them into the chat space. If you don't have a pen and paper nearby, perhaps use the chat space as your pen and paper. But just acknowledge the different relationships that are in your life, the importance or the presence of those relationships. So while you're busy completing that, I'm just going to speak a little bit more about, the gains and the benefits of relationships. So why do we have relationships? There is a cornerstone of all happiness and living a full life. This is because they come with those rewards and are beneficial to our mental health. Relationships provide us with people to share our lives with and people who can help us out in tough times. They tend to bring us plenty of laughs and as a result, lots of joy. They offer us a sense of understanding of ourselves, others in the world. We get our basic needs met. We get involved, participate in the world, and be included to feel acknowledged that I am important and I am cared for. To share the good times, to celebrate, to share the tough times, to bounce back, to alleviate the feelings of loneliness, to have a sense of belonging, meaning in life, and aid us in the comfort of being on one's own. And finally, to engage and participate in the world, to feel I have a purpose and I offer meaning to someone else, to be important to a significant someone. So let's go back to the idea of a relationship. What is a good relationship? So I'm going to be releasing a poll in a short while that will offer you an opportunity to reflect on a particular type of relationship. And as we are in this academy together, I'm going to challenge us to start thinking a little bit more about our research relationship. And you can use the same checklist that we'll release as a poll for any other relationship. So we won't ask for specifics, but note that this checklist offers important aspects to become aware of. So through the self-awareness, you can change what is not working, add what is working, stop what should not continue, and do more of what works. So we've got questions, or part of the checklist of qualities that a relationship should have. So go and think a little bit about your relationship that you have with your supervisor or in your research. If you are a supervisor with your students, is this relationship one of trust? Does it have confidence? Do you have confidence in them? Are they reliable? Can you rely on them? Is it free of judgment? Is it a supportive relationship? Are you both equal partners? Can you be yourselves when you're together? Does the relationship allow you an opportunity to communicate and be honest with each other, to have fun together and respect each other? Submit those responses if you feel you would like to. It's a nice poll to have and to reflect on. And we will come back to those signs, those characteristics. So while you complete the poll, I'm going to continue why it is important to have a good relationship. Human beings are naturally social creatures, makes life more fun and enjoyable, offers opportunities to be ourselves, to develop our unique selves, for career development, to establish personal peace and happiness, and to build our resilience. So who do we find ourselves in relationships with? Let's go back to those circles and see who you've assigned in those circles. Are the relationships you have, that you're in have too much control or importance in your life? Have you considered all that needs to be considered? Did you include your professional circles, your colleagues, supervisors, research peers, line managers, consultants? Perhaps you've added family, friends, partners, yourself, and acquaintances. And as you scan through those relationship circles, once again, ask yourself, are you a good friend or a colleague? Do you guys get to laugh with each other, not at each other? Respecting each other? Do you prove to be a good influence? Do they prove to be a good influence? Is there a sense of care? We're not emotionally drained by the person. We have similar values. So I'm reminded by, these qualities and the gains that we have when relationships are good. How different will your life be when you start experiencing those icky relationships as more positive relationships, as healthy relationships are filled with happiness and purpose? You tend to find yourself gaining more from that relationship in connectedness and a sense of belonging and happiness. So I'm just mindful of the chat space, and I see we're quite quiet, and I'm just wondering, in terms of the circles, what kind of relationships have you acknowledged? Which ones have you assigned big meaning to you in your life? Which ones have smaller meaning to you in your life? So we need relationships to grow and interact with people and for development, and they are vital for giving support and nurture us in times of need. So when forming a relationship, people differ in terms of what they bring or contribute towards a relationship. So allow the past experiences of what research relationships were like, familial relationships, parent relationships, and allow yourself to set up healthier, positive relationships based on your past experiences. The healthier the relationship, the easier it is to remain connected with that colleague, that friend, that partner, that supervisor. Remaining connected in your connections help you to establish a sense of belonging. When we are connected, there is this neurological, emotional, and behavioral shift. There's a shift in your mood, your ability to focus and be attentive. You establish or gain a sense of belonging and purpose. And that's just to be very brief. There are many benefits in establishing these healthier relationships. Staying connected can relieve the pressure and stresses. And sometimes, and I'm sure you've experienced this, that when you're stressed, we tend to forget about ourselves and we isolate ourselves further. So be kind to yourself. Acknowledge the stresses in your life and reach out. So I'm going to give you just some quick 10 activities that will assist you in maintaining good relationships. 1, good communication. It's key to avoiding and solving problems in your relationships. Be able to tell another person how you feel and how you think will help both of you to quickly solve those problems, whether they come up in your relationship together. Efficient communication is hands down the best foundation for a great relationship. Do let us know in the chat space when I'm going through these 10 aspects, which one you're struggling with, which one you want to do differently or more of, which ones you're achieving, great strides in establishing those aspects in your relationships, with your supervisor, with your friends, with your family. Consider how you speak with each other. Okay. Support each other's interests, pursuits, consider the ideas instead of dismissing at first. Manage those power struggles and set those boundaries. Another one is forgiveness. It's something that everyone can find in their lives, although many people may struggle with. However hard it may be, forgiveness is an important way to strengthen your bond with another person and lift weights off of your shoulders. If you are a forgiving person, you will be seen as a great friend and an ally, and others will be more likely to treat you as you want to be treated. When you understand another person, how they think, feel, and why they act the way they do, it becomes easier to forgive them and communicate with them. It allows you an opportunity to really understand someone. You're able to put yourself in their shoes and see things from their perspective. You get to gain a sense of understanding. It takes a big heart and a lot of openness to want to understand someone else, their situation, and how they feel. Respect is very important for any kind of relationship, even if you think someone is below you in some way. That doesn't mean that they deserve less respect than you. Respect is the foundation of harmony in relationships. In these situations, you should always give your feedback in a calm and respectful way, and always intend to look for solutions. If it's possible, simply end the relationship. In the end, respect can be summed up with the golden rule, and I'm sure you all have heard this rule. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Appreciation goes hand in hand with those 5 languages of love. Showing appreciation is essential for relationships because it's important to make sure that those around you feel valued and acknowledged. Appreciating the other people in your life will make them happier and will strengthen your bond and relationships. So we tend to show our acknowledgement and appreciation towards another person in the way that we would like to be treated. This can be good, but it's also important to know how the other person in your relationship responds best to. A relationship is a partnership between 2 people, and you're both on the same side. So when an issue appears, people sometimes tend to start blaming and arguing with each other instead of actually solving the problem. So when a challenge appears or a mistake has occurred, you and those around you should be focused on working together to solve the problem. So a better way to protect and strengthen your relationship is to tackle the problem as the team that you are, no matter whose fault it is. Relationships are built on trust and respect. Both of these are things that are hard to earn back if you destroy them. And lies are the easiest and quickest ways just to do that. The more honest you are with the people around you, the more they will trust and admire you. This will make them willing to understand you and communicate with you, which will further strengthen your relationships. Honesty is the best policy. When people don't make time for each other, they damage their relationship together. So work and relationships are things that you need to balance carefully, as well as the tasks and duties within each relationship. So become self-aware of what it is that you're engaging in those relationships and activities in your life. Laughing a lot comes with a ton of psychological benefits. When you spend time with other people, you feel more charismatic. Spending time with people that you like and feel like it's okay to laugh with and be yourself is very important. Surrounding yourself with people like that is crucial for forming great relationships. How different would your relationships with, especially with your supervisor, be if you had established and experienced all these 10 qualities and going well? It might not always be this way, but making a shift in one area will shift another. So most importantly, don't forget to build that relationship with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Learn to accept and love yourself. Celebrate your uniqueness. Be authentic to who you are and being the best at being you. Fill your cup. Challenge that inner narrative and forgive yourself. If you had to compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. Set boundaries. You will appreciate yourself for doing so and live purposefully and intentionally, mindful of who and what you stand for. I know this is a very brief presentation on what is relationships and how to establish them. And I just want to briefly touch on what if you had to catch yourself in a relationship that is not healthy, what to do. Reach out, speak to someone, speak to a professional. If you are not helped, don't stop speaking. Here's a brief summary of what all relationships need from you. Be supportive. Do not make judgments when your friend, your partner, or your supervisor makes mistakes or does things differently from how you would do them. Ask for help when you cannot cope with a situation. Express your feelings honestly. Listen attentively. Learn new skills by teaching and learning from each other. Take responsibility for your actions. If this is not present, speak to someone. Speak to someone you may gain a new perspective over. That may help you to gain a new perspective over the situation and figure out solutions together. So if you do need help and you find yourself in a relationship that needs you to speak to someone, a professional, contact us. You may also contact SADAG, CIPLA, or the Higher Health. You can also contact the RMS or your academic leader. The university has a policy against all forms of abuse. So connect with us and for further support. So that is all my snippets that I have right now to share with you. I like what Lenine is saying. She loves that. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Perhaps also sometimes treat others the way they'd like to be treated. Make time for each other. It's so important, has a definite benefit for progress and productivity. Absolutely. And yes, I do agree. It sometimes is difficult and we all struggle with this. It's kind of like making those time slots and giving the relationships the priority that they deserve when you've made time for those relationships. So I just would like to appreciate the team for allowing me an opportunity to speak through on aspects of relationships. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Ms. Spulganithi Thaber, who's going to introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for the lovely overview on relationships and what tells us we're in a healthy relationship and how to make our relationships work and grow for us. We've also looked at when we are not in a healthy relationship and we are wanting to seek assistance and support, what to do about it. And just to highlight that UKZN has a zero tolerance to any form of violence, gender-based violence and abuse. So on that note, I think I'm absolutely thrilled to have on board with us Dr. Jafta. Dr. Jafta is the academic leader of research in the School of Nursing and Public Health. And we thought he'd be the best person to come on board and fit into this particular topic to be able to expand on the relationship that you are all currently in, and that is in terms of your academic program. So Dr. Jafta, he is a senior lecturer in the discipline of occupational therapy, in the discipline of occupational and environmental health. He has a PhD from UKZN on a topic related to environmental health. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Jafta. He's going to build into this topic and expand on fostering a healthy relationship within the academic context amongst peers and supervisors, etc. Thank you so much, and over to you, Dr. Jafta. On that note, thank you for joining us today and welcome.
Thanks, Uli. Thanks everyone for inviting me. I think Uli has introduced me. I think one thing she didn't say is that I'm still new in this position, so I'm still learning the ropes, and hopefully I'm 3 months into it or 4 months into it, so it's still new for me. But I've made some observations, and some of the things that come true to me for whatever reason between supervisors, student, a relationship that I observe or that come through me. So there are usually some of the issues between supervisors and students. Just to go back a bit, as academic leaders, or can I switch off the camera now? As academic leaders, we supposed, or as academics, we're supposed to make or to enable students to do their best when they are going through the program. And that is one thing that I think as students or as PhD candidates, you must always think that a supervisor is there to help you go through the program the best way that you can and learn as much as you can, because at the end, you are supposed, or every PhD is supposed to go out into the society and make a contribution that is worth. So if your experience sometimes is not good, that those things are not, sometimes that will show with the person when they go out. As an academic leader, the one, I will just make a few examples of the observations I've made. There have been a situation where students, for example, will say, hey, my supervisor has been not responding to my emails. And now I'm into semester 5, and I'm still not satisfied, or I'm not happy with how my supervisor is helping me out with whatever we're supposed to do. Those are real things. And when you ask the student what happened, sometimes they will tell you that I email a supervisor, they don't respond, and I will wait for plus minus 3 weeks. I'll remind them, they don't they respond after I've reminded them. To be conscious, to be very conscious is that the supervisors as well, they've got a lot in their plates. If you are a PhD student, it's your degree. You must trouble your supervisor. One of the things I tell my students that I supervise is that don't feel bad if you are supposed to remind me after every second day, and I've promised that I will respond to you, and I don't respond. Don't feel bad if you have to send that email. I don't respond in 2 days, you send another email again. Because that's the kind of a student you're supposed to be. You must be worried, you must take initiative when you are about your studies. Otherwise, the supervisor has got other students who are maybe are pestering him or her, wanting responses. So that is very important, that with your supervisor is supposed to help you. Don't feel bad when you are asking for help, but also as well, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. The supervisor will not write your thesis, will not read what is supposed to be read for you. You're supposed to read that. So that balance is very important. That's why the college has got what is called a memorandum of understanding. Not sure whether everyone have been introduced or have signed that they are supervisors. That memorandum of understanding is supposed to be modified if there are some of the things that you think they won't work between you and your supervisor. You can say, okay, we are saying that every month or every 2 weeks, I'm going to present what I've done to you. You are telling your supervisor. Those are kind of things that show the initiative from the candidate side. Otherwise, the supervisor is having a lot of work that they need to do. But having said that, a supervisor has a responsibility not to abuse the relationship. Consciously, we know that as a student, the power is usually tilted, is more on the supervisor side because they are the supervisor. If you are a student, you have something that is bothering you, there are services like these ones, student support services. There are academic leaders that you can talk to or raise the issue with. Usually, when issues are raised with us, usually don't just go to the dean or to the college or to the DVC. we first engage with the person who's raising the issues to understand the sensitivity or how that is. And then if they are okay to be directed somewhere, we will take that through the channels that needs to go to. So yeah, that's my take on the relationship. But one of the things I must again emphasize, that memorandum of understanding, sometimes it looks like just a paper. But if you have that, when things are not working out, you can go back and say, look, we agreed on this memorandum of understanding that we will do this like this, and now it looks like we're not. How do we go about? So that memorandum of understanding is very important. The college and even the university now needs every student supervisor and the supervisor to have that agreement when they start. Otherwise, when things are not working good, usually it's who said, you said that, I didn't say that, so it becomes a bit messy. And also the memorandum of understanding, it helps to, as you heard with the speakers, set the boundaries that should not be crossed. So that helps with that memorandum of understanding helps with that. So please do look at that as a start point. As I said, the academic leaders in each of the schools are there. There is a college dean of research, and also there is this service, the student support services. I hope, yeah, I think that's it from me. Not sure whether there are any questions or comments for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Chapter, for giving us a brief overview on the importance of this critical relationship. I think very often when we are at student support services are working with, especially our postgrad students, we often share with them that a huge part of their success in this journey is the relationships that they foster within this academic program amongst peers, the team members and supervisors, etc. And we do know at this space that our students are in, one of the critical relationships, and I suppose the circle that would be quite big at this point in time on that page would be this particular relationship. So thank you so much for sharing your insight and as the academic leader on this aspect. We also realize that we often have our presentations lengthy and we don't really have too much of time for questions. So we deliberately wanted to leave the floor open and some space for questions to come through, which we could actually engage with in terms of discussions. So over to Lenine and Sue and the team that's present today.
Thank you so much, Wuli. Thanks, Sue. And thanks, Dr. Chapter, for all the information right now. I don't have a question. I do have a comment. It really resonated to me what Dr. Chapter was speaking about. How important it is to cultivate the relationship with your supervisor, or at least from my perspective as a supervisor, to cultivate a good relationship with my students. And I think what I really enjoy from my students is when they'll knock on my door and say, hi, do you have 5 minutes? You know, it's just 5 minutes. Let's take a walk in the parking lot and we can just catch up. Or I'll come to their desk. And, you know, in that way, we have this sort of informal relationship, bridging the formal part of our relationship as well. We interact as people and we grow together as people. And, you know, and another point he mentioned was the MOUs. That is so very important, to hold each other accountable. I'm sure everybody has seen an MOU before. It's where, you know, the supervisor is aware of all their responsibilities, and the student is also then in this document now made aware of their responsibilities. They agree to it, they discuss it, and they remind themselves throughout the course of their time together what they should be doing and reviewing the relationship. And sometimes that doesn't actually happen, and it's such an important thing to do. So if you have not done it, please, I really encourage you to do that, to improve the communication within your relationship. So
I was a little excited when I saw the results of the poll. So let's quickly share those poll results. So you would be able to see your selection. So as we're sharing the poll results, I was quite interested in seeing that a lot of you don't have fun in this relationship, and I think that's one of the key aspects. I mean, to do research and to write, it's tough. Sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes it's like it makes us feel a little older than what we should be feeling. And I think, there's always that element of fun and excitement and joy, escaping from this journey, from this relationship. So as you look at your results, the ones that you've chosen, and I'm just going to quickly share my screen for those that are watching the replay. You should be able to see the signs of a healthy relationship there. Make a note of what is missing and be deliberate in your actions. And when you're connecting with your supervisor, to say, I'd like to see a little more of this, and put it as part of an activity for the day or for the week or for the month. And I think it's like we've seen, it goes both ways. Trust is earned. It's hard to establish when it's gone. Develop confidence. You've chosen your supervisor for a particular reason. Allow yourself an opportunity to establish the foundations and the ground rules, so that when you are needing assistance, that you can rely on them and that they know what you're expecting. Free from judgment is so important. Being a support, being equals, allowing yourself to be yourself in this relationship is so important. I think that, all of these signs, these qualities are all important, but allowing yourself permission to do things a little differently that's not working, do more of what works, and stop doing things that's definitely not contributing. Perhaps something in another relationship is working and you want to try doing what works somewhere else. Perhaps put that as part of the relationship. So we've got a question. What do you do if your supervisor is not being helpful? How can the university come in? And I think we definitely have a good team that can help respond in terms of the grievance procedures. I do think one of the first steps would be having that conversation, speaking about the objectives that's not being met. I don't know if Prof. Lenine or Prof. Colleen would like to speak a little bit more when you have like a roadblock or a wall when it comes to progress, when it comes to sorting out a relationship for supervisory nature that's been stonewalled.
Lenine, would you like to go first?
Actually, I was going to suggest you do on behalf of UKZN. So for me, based in my institute, I think you're right, Sue. The very first thing would be to have the discussion with the student, just to iron out what the problem is, and for both of you to then go forward committing to a course of action, agreeing to this a course of action. If the relationship is still breaking down, what was that? If the supervisor is still not being helpful, that's when in my institute, the student will approach our HR section and take it further there, where both parties would then be involved in arbitration to get external help to try and figure out where the breakdown is and how we can get the student back on track. So that's how it works in my field. I understand it might be somewhat different at UKZN. Perhaps you could comment on that, Colleen?
Yeah, I think this is probably the toughest situation that I've ever had to deal with when I was academic leader for research, because it's, the fault can lie with both the parties, the supervisor and the student, or with just one of the parties. And the hardest is when it's with the supervisor. And we've had situations where there's been a co-supervisory relationship and one supervisor has done very little, and the right thing to do is the hardest thing to do. And that is to have this meeting and talk things through. And if nothing comes out of talking those things through, then it should be escalated to the academic leader for research and up to the dean for research. But it's probably better to start talking between the two parties very early on in this problem relationship. So the minute the student feels that they are not being supported the way they feel they should be, they should call a meeting with the supervisor and say to them, I've got some issues on this level here. Can we please talk about that? And the earlier you start that, the less likely it is going to escalate into a situation where you're going to have to get arbitration from the academic leader or the dean. But it's a very tough place to be. And I have empathy for or sympathy for both sides. I've seen students absolutely ruined by bad supervisory relationships. And I've seen supervisors being absolutely abused by students as well. So if there's a simple answer, is to try and do the right thing early on in the relationship and talk.
I absolutely agree with that one. So before things could even get bad, I think I mentioned it earlier, cultivate that good relationship. Make sure that you are comfortable to approach your supervisor in the first place. And I guess that they would be comfortable as well to approach you about something that they might not be comfortable with too. This sort of communication is a two-way street, and if it goes bad, it goes terribly wrong for both parties. So could I ask you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Chapter.
Yes, thank you. Just another thing, the peer support that the students usually get into. Those are really good for whether the supervisor is good or bad, but those are sometimes what keep the student on track. I would advise students to get into that. In our discipline, we have a regular Friday meeting where students present their work, or we do journal club critique of a journal article or something like that. Those are things that if you're not practicing them, sometimes they seem like they don't help. But I'm an academic now, but I know that if I haven't done that for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I know that I'm losing something about my academic. So really, for students, I know some disciplines, they can allow you, even if your discipline or your school doesn't have such activities. In our discipline, you can just come in and sit in, it's okay. You may not understand the language or the jargon at first, but as time goes on, you will understand it's science and it's about the support. Thanks.
That is so important. You made that's such a very good point, how important peer relationships are. You know, Sue, when you were speaking about those circles, I must say, I put my colleagues in a bigger bubble than my supervisor. And I think that stems from way back, you know, during my PhD, having the support of peers, knowing who I can contact if I'm in trouble with a certain machine, or if I've got writer's block and somebody, you know, on the floor has more experience and I'm comfortable speaking to this colleague or this friend more so than I would my supervisor. Having that sort of peer, this team around you to help you succeed, people who are as interested in you succeeding as what you are, is so important. And I think that's what I've been seeing recently, thanks to COVID, that people tend to not want to, you know, speak to other people or interact with people. They prefer to, you know, just sit, I'll deal with it, I'll figure it out by myself. When there's actually a large support system untapped out there of people who have the experience that you would like to grow. And all it would take would be to build those sorts of relationships. I'm sure there are questions within this chat about how to do that. And I'll wait. I'm not going to monopolize. Colleen, would you like to say something?
Yeah, you know, the ideal situation is to have a journal club. It really is brilliant, but not all disciplines are able to do that. And I know that our clinical students battle to find a community of practice. It's very difficult, but it is so useful that it is something that we should actually try very hard to create. And we have started something called the Writers' Lounge. I hope people have seen the advert. It's 2 hours on a Monday night where people get together from across the university and they just plug in 2 hours of reading. There are 15 minutes of chatting between you, getting to know people from different disciplines, but the crowd is growing and it's a supportive crowd. There are people there who are lecturers in other schools, but there are also lots of students. And you can create a community of practice like that as well. So I'd like to invite more people to come and try out the Writers' Lounge on a Monday evening, but see how that works and then try and create your own community of practice in your own discipline. And that really is very helpful. Yeah.
Could I add one more thing to that? I guess one of the problems facing people when it comes to making those connections is that we might not know who to connect with. So I from a personal experience, I moved to Durban, started a postdoc, I knew nobody, and soon realized that that's the problem, and I need to be able to surround myself with people who can help me, and I'm willing to help you as a peer as well. So what I'd done was contacted somebody from each of the 3 research institutes around me, and we arranged to have friends of friends and their friends just get together and not have a party, just, you know, sit in a room and introduce each other, tell each other where we're from, what kind of expertise we have, and just generally start that community of practice within research ourselves. We didn't need anybody else telling us what to do. We realized that there was a gap, and, you know, our problem was that we didn't know enough people. So I'm sure there are more modern ways of doing it, perhaps over social media, but back then, 10 years ago, it was getting into a room without mask and speaking to people about their research backgrounds and what sorts of expertise they have and how they could be of help to somebody else. Just a thought for any other students who would like to do something similar. Right, Sue, I see you've got a comment there.
Yeah, I like what you're saying in terms of, you know, doing it a little bit differently 10 years later. And I've seen many people are drawing themselves into groups on LinkedIn, on Instagram, there's a lot of, Twitter, there's a lot of research groups where people are supporting each other on social media from across the world. And that's always interesting to see the kinds of conversations and how each other supports the other. I like what you're touching on, and it comes to that comment where I said, you know, relationships provides us with the opportunities to share our lives and to tap into the resources of others, and to get the help, especially in those tough times. And you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you will learn about yourself in those situations. I mean, I'm just thinking about opening yourself up to new environments, new people. It's a big adjustment, and you were brave and courageous. And I think we all need to do that sometimes. You know, we get too comfortable in our spaces. And when we become stagnant, so allowing ourselves and giving ourselves permission to learn something new, connect with someone new every day, even if it is just a high. You never know what will happen from that high, what you will learn. Absolutely. So I don't see any more questions, but I do want to make a statement about that, you know, this conversation can continue. It's a big conversation piece, especially when it comes to issues of gender-based violence. And if you do feel you would like to have more conversations and would like to tap into individual relationships, especially with your supervisors, and you're needing to manage those relationships from a psychotherapy point of view, don't hesitate to contact Student Support Services. We are available on the toll-free line on 080-080-0017, as well as the email address chs.sss@ukzn.ac.za.
Thank you so much, Sue. And thank you so much to the team as well for all the valuable information about what a healthy relationship is, and the different kinds of relationships out there, and to be more aware of that, and what to do when relationships break down, and particularly with your, thanks to Dr. Chapter, discussions about the supervisor relationships and encouraging more peer interactions as well. All of these are so very important for a good state of mind, and that also productivity, especially within your degree. Dr. Chapter, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to have any final comment?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I have anything much to add. Just for the students, they must know that the university have got their interested that we will not academics on our own, academics because they are students. So we want to support you as much as possible through the program. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you very much for being here. It's so true. We are a community. As supervisors, a student's success is our success. We want you to succeed, and we want to make sure that the relationships a good relationship is going to promote that, right? Thank you again to the SSS team and guests, and for all the participants today. What do we have next? I think we have a break next week for Women's Day. Fantastic. And the 16th of August, I see, is the next meeting we have. We will be discussing issues of substance use and abuse, again with the SSS team. Thank you so much for being able to do that. And participants, we'll see you then. Don't forget that we do have the recording of this on UKZN's YouTube website. If you'd like to go through it again, or have your friends go through it again, anybody who's not clear on MOUs and good relationships, please do let them know. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again at the Tuesday PhD support group meeting on the 16th of August. We have a public holiday break in between, but the Wednesday meetings, the Doctoral Academy, will still be going forward. Take care, everybody. Thank you for participating. Keep well. Bye.